I need to tell you about a video that's been haunting Donald Trump for years. A video he never wanted the public to see. And now, thanks to MeidasTouch, it's everywhere. It's a 2010 deposition of Jeffrey Epstein, under oath, being asked a simple question about Donald Trump. Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18? Epstein pauses, a long pause, and then he says, "Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir." The 5th Amendment, the right against self-incrimination. Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't answer whether he'd been around underage girls with Donald Trump, because answering might incriminate him. Think about what that means for a second. MeidasTouch dug up this footage in July 2025 and posted it to social media, where it exploded. But here's the thing. The contents of this deposition had been reported before. What MeidasTouch did was show people the actual video, and seeing Epstein's face, watching him hesitate, watching him invoke his constitutional rights rather than simply say, "No," that hit differently. Now, as the Epstein files continue to tear through Washington like a hurricane, this video has taken on new significance, because everything we're learning from the released documents confirms what that deposition suggested. Trump's relationship with Epstein was far deeper and more troubling than he's ever admitted. Is anyone else connecting these dots? Tell me in the comments. Let me walk you through what MeidasTouch has been documenting for years, because what's happening right now isn't coming out of nowhere. In that same 2010 deposition, before the question about underage girls, the attorney asked Epstein, "Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?" Epstein's response, "What do you mean by personal relationship, sir?" The attorney clarified, "Have you socialized with him?" And Epstein answered, "Yes, sir." So there's no ambiguity about whether they knew each other. Epstein confirmed under oath that he socialized with Trump. The question that made him invoke the 5th was specifically about underage girls. MeidasTouch has been compiling evidence about this relationship for the past 4 to 5 years. They've surfaced video after video that mainstream media either ignored or buried. There's the footage from a 1992 party at Mar-a-Lago where Trump and Epstein are seen together, laughing, talking, surrounded by women. There's the 1991 Look of the Year modeling competition footage, young girls in swimsuits parading in front of Trump. There's the interview with rapper Uncle Luke from 2 Live Crew, who described attending a party at Mar-a-Lago with Eddie Murphy and Mike Tyson in the early 1990s. Luke said he saw young girls who appeared underage and left within 45 minutes because he feared extortion. But what's changed everything is the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Congress passed it in November 2025, Trump reluctantly signed it, and the Department of Justice has since released over 3 million pages of documents. And Trump's name appears in those files more than 1 million times. That's according to Representative Jamie Raskin, the ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, who searched the unredacted files and told Axios what he found. More than 1 million results. For context, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the DOJ had to review over 6 million pages total. 2 Eiffel Towers of pages, as he put it. Trump's name appearing over 1 million times means he's in roughly 1 out of every 6 pages. Now, here's where it gets more damning. Raskin found a 2009 email exchange between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell that directly contradicts Trump's central claim about their relationship. For years, Trump has insisted that he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and banned him from the club. That's been his story. He distanced himself from Epstein. He cut ties. But in this email, Epstein recounts a conversation his lawyers had with Trump, and Trump is paraphrased and quoted as saying, "No, Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and no, we never asked him to leave. We never asked him to leave. Not I banned him, not I threw him out, but we never asked him to leave." Representative Dave Min, a Democrat from California and member of the House Oversight Committee, called this a smoking gun. He told CNN, "This tells me Donald Trump was caught lying because he said that he did not know about Epstein until like 2019. He said he'd quit affiliations with Epstein at some point. So the fact that as early as 2005 or 2006, Donald Trump clearly and apparently knew something about what was going on with Epstein and that he was continuing to send girls from Mar-a-Lago to Epstein's employment, that tells us a lot about what Donald Trump knew and when. Does this change how you see the situation? I really want to know what you think. Here's where the story gets even darker. Among the released files is an FBI document from a 2019 interview with Michael Reiter, who was the Palm Beach police chief when Epstein was first investigated in 2005 and 2006. According to Reiter, Trump called him in 2006, around the time the investigation became public, and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Trump also reportedly told Reiter that Maxwell was Epstein's operative and that she was evil and to focus on her. He said, "People in New York knew Epstein was disgusting." When the White House was asked about this document, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt couldn't confirm whether the call took place. But she suggested that if it did happen, it would corroborate Trump's claims that he knew Epstein was a creep. But that's not what the document shows. The document shows Trump knew what Epstein was doing, knew that everyone knew, and yet continued to socialize with him for years before and after. Trump only started publicly distancing himself when law enforcement got involved. And the timeline matters here. According to the files and various reports, Trump and Epstein's falling out happened around 2004, supposedly over a real estate dispute, not over anything related to Epstein's crimes. By 2006, when Trump called Reiter, Epstein had already been indicted by a grand jury. So Trump's story is that he threw out Epstein before anyone knew about his crimes because he just sensed something was off. But the actual evidence suggests Trump knew exactly what Epstein was doing, said nothing publicly for years, and only expressed concern to police after the investigation was already underway. And then there's author Michael Wolff's claim, which MeidasTouch has also reported on extensively. Wolff claimed that Epstein possessed compromising photos of Trump with young girls. In an April 2019 email released by House Democrats, Epstein wrote to Wolff that Trump knew about the girls. Knew about the girls. The DOJ says there's no evidence these allegations are credible. Deputy Attorney General Blanche said the claims against Trump in the files are unfounded and false. But the public isn't buying it. A January 2026 CNN poll found that only 6% of Americans are satisfied with what the federal government has released. Nearly half of Republicans, 3/4 of independents, and 9 in 10 Democrats said the government is withholding information. And a separate Economist YouGov poll found that 49% of Americans believe Trump is attempting to cover up Epstein's crimes. Only 30% believe he's not. Now I need to explain how MeidasTouch fits into all of this, because their role has been extraordinary. The Meidas brothers, Ben, Brett, and Jordan, founded MeidasTouch in March 2020 during the COVID lockdown. Ben is a litigator who represents Colin Kaepernick. Brett is a 2-time Emmy-winning video editor who worked on Ellen. Jordan is an executive at a branding firm. They started making short, punchy videos criticizing Trump, and they got very, very good at it. By February 2025, the MeidasTouch podcast was the #1 podcast by downloads and plays, beating Joe Rogan. Their audience grew by 141% in just 1 month after Trump's re-election. Media Matters identified them as the 4th most popular progressive online show with 6.4 million total viewers. But what made them different, what made them dangerous to Trump, is that they don't just comment on the news. They surface original footage. They dig up videos that nobody else is showing. The July 2025 Epstein deposition video was a perfect example. The contents of that deposition had been reported in 2019, but MeidasTouch found the actual footage and posted it. And suddenly, millions of people saw Epstein pleading the Fifth with their own eyes. Ben Meidas, one of the founders, has been interviewing Democratic lawmakers who are reviewing the unredacted Epstein files. He's spoken with Jamie Raskin about the smoking gun email. He's reported on what Raskin called finding Trump's name more than 1 million times. And MeidasTouch has been connecting dots that mainstream media outlets either missed or were reluctant to emphasize. They've surfaced footage of Trump at beauty pageants with young contestants. They've highlighted Uncle Luke's interview about Mar-a-Lago parties. They've compiled video after video of Trump's past comments about young women and beauty queens, including his own admission on Howard Stern's show that he would go backstage at his pageants while contestants were changing. This isn't speculation. This is documented. This is on tape. And MeidasTouch has been the outlet putting it all together in one place. Trump himself has attacked MeidasTouch multiple times. He's referenced their coverage in legal filings. He's gone on tirades against them on social media. That tells you everything you need to know about how effective they've been. Here's what makes the current moment so explosive. The Epstein files saga has been dogging Trump's second term since day one. He initially promised to release everything. Then he fought to stop Congress from passing the Transparency Act. He personally lobbied individual GOP members at the White House, but he was outmaneuvered by bipartisan pressure and eventually signed the bill. The DOJ missed the December deadline. When they finally released over 3 million pages on January 30th, they included images that accidentally showed victims' faces, forcing a hasty removal. They redacted Trump's name in some documents, then claimed they hadn't protected anyone. And now the administration is in a bizarre position. The Justice Department that Trump controls is simultaneously claiming the files exonerate him, while also arguing that whole categories of documents should remain sealed. Trump told reporters, "I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping. But if the files absolve him, why did his administration fight so hard to keep them secret? Why are 3 million pages still unreleased? Why did the DOJ call the files the illicit product of an unlawful investigation that belongs in the dustbin of history?" Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky who has been reviewing the unredacted files, raised questions about whether FBI Director Kash Patel gave false testimony. In September, Patel told Congress Trump's name appeared in the files fewer than 100 times. The actual number is well over 1,000 at minimum, possibly over 1 million. This week, Trump's grip on his own party is showing cracks. 6 House Republicans voted to override his tariffs on Canada. Senator Tom Tillis is holding up his Fed chair nomination. Fallout from the Epstein files continues, and MeidasTouch keeps posting. They reported on Trump's Oval Office meltdown over the files. They interviewed Raskin about the smoking gun email. They've been relentless. The video Trump feared, that 2010 deposition of Epstein pleading the Fifth, now exists in the context of millions of pages of corroborating documents. It's not a random clip anymore. It's part of a pattern of association, of knowledge, of cover-up. So where does this leave us? Half of Americans believe Trump is covering up Epstein's crimes. Only 6% are satisfied with what's been released. Members of Congress from both parties are accusing the DOJ of obstruction, and MeidasTouch continues to surface footage that Trump would rather stay buried. The question isn't whether Trump knew Epstein. The files make clear that he did, deeply, for years. The question is what exactly Trump knew, when he knew it, and whether he did anything about it beyond eventually cutting ties when it became politically necessary. And there's another question that looms over all of this. The DOJ has identified over 6 million pages as potentially responsive to the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They've released roughly half. What's in the other 3 million pages? Who's being protected? And why did Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to be Trump's personal attorney, personally visit Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? Maxwell's lawyer says she could clear Trump's name, but she's also said she wants a pardon in exchange for cooperation. And as Representative Min pointed out, nothing she says is relevant because the person at the heart of this is a known liar. This all reeks of a cover-up. That's what congressional Democrats are saying. That's what Republican Thomas Massie implied. That's what 49% of Americans believe. And MeidasTouch isn't going away. They've become one of the most watched progressive media outlets in the country. They've won awards. They have a massive audience. And they have years of footage and reporting connecting the dots on Trump and Epstein. The video Trump feared most, Epstein pleading the Fifth about underage girls, is just the beginning. What happens when the rest of those files come out? What do you think is being hidden? I'm genuinely curious to hear your take.